Tailor Tales Grey Route. We are here, chapter 17, at the Wasted Club or whatever bar. Aroma. My old nickname rings through my ears, turning my stomach to lead. I'm uncomfortably aware of Grey beside me, knowing he would have heard what Nikki said, and I dread to wonder what he's thinking right now. Fortunately, I don't have time to linger on it, or to look at Grey's reaction before Nikki's speaking again. We were ambushed, he says between short gasps, struggling to catch his breath. His lip is busted and the front of his shirt has a hole torn in front of it. The Riversiders threatened the owner of the bar. They were waiting for us when we arrived, Nikki explains. Those bastards, Sarah hisses over the noise surrounding us, her eyes fierce. Glancing up and down the street at the sheer number of Riversiders, I swell around the lump forming in my throat. I can only imagine the kind of welcome that was waiting for them. My eyes meet Nikki's again. I see nothing on his face but desperation and defeat, and I know what he's about to say before the words have even left his mouth. We've got to take our territory back, Aroma. We can't just let them take it. How? We're fighting them? Who I gotta fight? The leader? Ivan? I let out a little ground kick at a broken bottle on the ground, just a fraction of the damage our rivals have done to our territory. This time I don't falter, not like before. It's one thing to listen to Nikki telling me about the trouble the Riversiders have caused, but seeing it firsthand stokes an old flame within me. Let's put an end to this. I clench my hands into fists at my side, giving Nikki a sharp nod. His expression changes, knowing that this time I'll be standing beside him, and a glimmer of hope sparks in his eyes. Without looking back at the others, oh shit. Music. I follow my old friend into the street and we launch ourselves headfirst into the fight. The place is in total chaos and the academy is on the losing side of the battle. I cry out suddenly, avoiding a bottle hurling through the air. The object smashes on the sidewalk behind me. When I sweep the area searching for the source of the bottle, I'm met with a girl who's glaring at me a few pieces away. A Riversider who looks a few years younger than I am. Looking for a fight, huh? She boasts. She comes at me fast, and I can only manage to dodge her right hook at the last second, the edge of her fist grazing my chin. Oh Jesus. I lunge back at her with a swift kick that knocks her to the ground. A guy comes to her aid within seconds. He's holding the broken leg from a bar stool in front of his bar stool in both of his meaty hands. You wish you hadn't done that, the man says with a menacing grin, looking as though he's having the time of his life. We'll see about that, I shoot back at him. I glare between him and the makeshift weapon distastefully. I guess we're not just little kids anymore who use their fists. I bring my guard up to protect myself right before the two Riversiders launch themselves at me. Then I duck abruptly, right as the guy barrels straight into my crouching body and loses his balance, falling head over heels and splintering his weapon on the pavement when he goes down in a tangle of limbs. In a split second, I'm on my feet, blocking against the woman's attack. I misjudge my position slightly, and her punch clips me across the jaw, making my head reel. She's definitely stronger than I've anticipated, and I now know that another punch like that could knock me out cold. I was about to say, girl, you've been out of this battle. I have to be careful. I'll be no use to anyone if she manages to take me down. The one advantage I have on my side is speed, so that's exactly what I'm going to use. Is that all you've got? I tell her, hoping her anger will make her sloppy. It works like a charm, and when she attacks me next, I can see she's losing her form. I meet her head on. I'm surprised at first to find that I haven't completely forgotten my old kickboxing training. My muscles, while stiffer than they were, still remember the old routines. But the woman is just as good, and while I haven't fought anyone in a long time, she seems to be in her prime. I'm almost at the end of my rope, panting and out of breath when I see my lucky break. For just a moment, she leaves her abdomen unguarded, and that's where I strike. Oof. Girly! Landing a solid punch to her gut has her wheezing, doubling over in pain. From there, it takes only a well-paced punch to the nose and she's on the ground, blood spurting between her fingers as she cups her face and howls in pain. A loud groan from beside me catches my attention. I turn to find Grey hurling away the same man I put down before. The one who had somehow managed to stumble to his feet and had been advancing on me, broken chair leg raised above his head. Grey throws him to the ground with ease, knocking him out cold. Then he steps back and claps his hands together, dusting himself off. A few meters away, Jed has another Riversider laying flat on his back in the dirt, while Sarah fights against another beside him. I gape at the three of them for a moment, so surprised at seeing them join the fight that I almost forget everything that's going on around me. Are we doing this or what? Grey winks at me before jumping back into the fight. He's so cute. Adrenaline flows through me so thickly I don't have time to think. I block out everything else, focusing only on my rifles in front of me. They'll be sorry they ever came here. I'll make sure of that. Where is Ivan? I am scared. That man will bring a gun to like a knife fight, like let's be honest. Plunging and kicking our way through the fold, at first it seems to make little difference against the numbers that the Riversiders have here tonight. As a unit we carve a path through them faster and harder until their numbers begin to dwindle, the stragglers eventually beginning to run off with their tails between their legs. And it feels good to be doing this again. I glance over at Sarah, her eyes wild, her lips curved upwards, and I can tell she feels it too. Gray and Jed are forces to be reckoned with, two unmovable walls of stone-cold fear fighting their way through the throng beside us. I can't take my eyes off Gray, marveling at the way his muscles stretch and contract, at the laughter that escapes him when he sends another opponent sprawling to the ground. I am just wondering where the cops are. Gang life is not for me, so this would not be a vibe. Aromie, look out! Mickey shouts right as the wind is knocked out of me and I'm sent flying through the air. Well, there I go. I barely have time to cry out as a brutish-looking man knocks me to the ground, catching me completely off guard. He must be at least twice my size, and his weight causing me to fall backwards, his shoulder colliding with my face as I land on the pavement, feeling my skin graze against the asphalt. A stream of warmth trickles from my nose, and when it reaches my lips, tasting like metal on my tongue, I know I'm bleeding. In an instant, he's pulled off me and thrown aside by Gray, who descends upon him with bloody knuckles and a scowl sharp enough to kill. He's not laughing anymore, and I see now why people were so terrified of him back in high school. Are you okay? Sarah kneels beside me, touches my hand to my shoulder, her eyes wide with worry. I try to nod, but my face aches so fiercely that all I can manage is a wince of pain. While Gray is busy finishing off his opponent, I chance a glance around, find the Riversiders are all either passed out on the street or have already run off, leaving an academy gang behind to lick their wounds. Then suddenly, sirens blare in the background, sending everyone scattering into the night as part of me shudders at the sound. We have to get out of here, now, Sarah yells to the rest of us. Gray surges forward and helps me to my feet before we sprint away from the scene. With my hand in his, we follow Sarah as she leads the way, our footsteps thundering over the pavement and the sirens giving way to the relentless pounding of my heart in my ears. We skid around a corner and then another, until eventually, instead of concrete, my shoes are sinking to soft green grass. Hey, it's the park. When we finally stop, catching our breath beneath the cover of dark trees, I realize where we are. We're in a park. The same park we were in the night that Gray was arrested all those years ago. I look at him now, the sweat dripping from his face. Alright, can we be honest with him now? Is it a good time to chat? It'll look pretty sus if we go to the hospital and we have to say why we're here. Once upon a time, I thought he was my biggest rival, and now it seems it's the complete opposite. Not a rival, but an ally? Yeah, ally. A friend, and maybe something more. You're bleeding, he says after a moment, handing me a small tissue. Does it look bad? I ask him, letting him step closer and stem the flow of blood. I don't think it's broken, but you'll probably be left with a pretty nasty bruise, he says matter-of-factly. Put your hand here, he instructs, guiding my hand over the tissue before removing his own. Pinch down on your nose, it'll help. Alright, Dr. Jansen. I try to smile, but the pain hurts. The pain turns it into more of a grimace. I'm no stranger to this kind of injury, trust me, he adds with a smirk. Cupping the back of my head with his hand, he tilts it forward slightly in an effort to stop the flow of blood. I pout quietly to myself. What are my customers gonna think when they come into the store and see me with a bruised face? Don't worry, Gray says, quieter this time. Bruised or not, you'll still look beautiful. His comment catches me off guard, and when we lock eyes, neither one of us says a thing. That was insane, Jed is saying in the background, letting out a small, disbelieving laugh. Just like old days, Nikki comments solemnly, his gaze on me and Gray. Wow! Look at all these handsome men! I can't tell what he's thinking exactly, but from the look of in his eyes, I'd say he's starting to piece a few things together. My stomach flutters nervously when I think that he might not be the only one. We should get somewhere safe, Grace says, as soon as my bleeding nose is finally under control. We don't know who might still be hanging around. He does a quick assessment of everyone's injuries, and it seems that despite the severity of the fight, we've all gotten off pretty lightly. My place is close by, let's go there, I say, earning collective nod from the others. Under the cover of darkness, we head off into the night. Alright. I invite everyone up to my home where we all slump down on the sofa and the floor, anywhere we can catch our breath. What happens now? Sarah asks after we've had a few minutes to collect ourselves. Do you think the Riversiders will retaliate? Most likely, Nikki says grimly, grabbing a cushion from the sofa and hugging it against himself. Though at least their numbers will have dwindled after tonight. He looks at Gray and Jed, each of them in turn, as though seeing the two men in a new light. I don't think many of them will be up to facing you lot again, he says. Nikki looks towards Gray again, his eyebrows dipping. I thought I'd seen you before, but I couldn't recall where. Now I remember. You're the Phantom. The one and only, Gray smirks, but the smile doesn't quite meet his eyes. His gaze meets mine and I look away quickly, purposefully avoiding it. I'm afraid of what I might find there if I look too long. I know he knows who I am. There's no doubt about it. The confusing part is, why doesn't he seem more surprised about it? I should get going, Nikki says as he pushes himself to his feet, setting the cushion aside. There's more to do before the night ends. I'll walk you out, I say quickly, joining him at the door. You're a teacher, bro. You can't have this gang life on your record. We descend the stairs together in silence, speaking only when we're sure we won't be overheard. Did you know that Gray was the Phantom this whole time? Nikki asked, his voice hushed. I nod softly, dragging my bottom lip between my teeth anxiously. And does he know who you are? He does now, I say glumly, my eyes trailing to the floor. Hey, Nikki says with a small smile, and I look at him again. It's a strange situation, but the couple haven't given us any trouble since back in school, and from what I've seen, Gray seems like a good guy. He is, I just don't know what to do. This is all such a mess, I say weakly. You should do whatever makes you happy, he says kindly before his face falls. I'm sorry for dragging you back into all of this, but I didn't feel like I had any other choice, he adds. It's okay. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten, I admit, knowing that the truth is that I didn't want to know. Maybe the couple will be on our side now, huh? Nikki attempts a small smile. Maybe, I say, giving him a hug at the door. Stay safe out there, Nikki. You too. We'll talk soon, yeah? On better terms, not you, like, calling me that you're dying, right? I nod, wishing him a good night, watching him disappear into the alley and turn onto the street. It's only then that I turn to the sound of footsteps on the stairs, seeing Jed and Sarah enter the hallway. We're going to take off too. I'm exhausted, Sarah says, stepping forward to pull me into a hug. You're welcome to stay here if you want, I mumble against her shoulder, knowing that part of me is dreading what's coming, and especially having to face it alone. Thanks for the offer, but I think there's a few things we need to talk about, Jed says, giving Sarah a meaningful look as she releases me. And it seems like you need to have a conversation of your own, Sarah adds, brushing past me with a grimace. I sigh in defeat. One that's way overdue. Time to hear Gray tell me how much he hates me. I very much doubt that, worrywart, Sarah teases softly, nodding her head towards the stairs. Talk to him. Jed glances towards the ceiling before turning and giving me a half smile. Good luck, he says, following Sarah through the door where they both disappear into the night. This one night opened a lot of can of worms. Is that the saying? I don't know. That's probably really old. I lock the door behind them, taking a moment to steal my nerves and prepare myself for the conversation to come. Then, after taking in a deep breath, steady myself, I head back upstairs. Alright. When I reach the living room, I find Gray standing with his back to me. I hesitate, unsure of how to start this conversation. It seems, however, that I don't have to. Aroma, Gray says quietly, turning and fixing me with those sharp eyes of his. Now that it's just the two of us alone, I can feel a shift in the air. The decision of whether to tell him or not has been taken from me. Now it's time to deal with the fallout. The one and only, I confirm, meeting his gaze. You know, one would have thought your gang affiliation would have come up sooner, he says with a bite to his tone, considering how pertinent it is to my past. Were you ever going to tell me, or did your friends need to be in serious danger? I've wanted to so many times, to say defensively. I was about to, at the movies today. Gray scoffs, his anger shown by the flush of red crawling up his neck. And yet, I didn't hear any of the following, Gray. I just wanted to tell you that the old leader of the Academy gang, you know, the one that stood you up in the park the night you got arrested? Well, that was me. I didn't mean for you to get arrested, I cry out. I echo. I told you I needed more time. What else am I supposed to do? I ask helplessly. Talk to me? Gray lashes out in frustration before reeling himself back in just as fast, the muscles in his jaw feathering as he pins me with a crushing stare. I would have listened. I watched him. I feel like he would have. Our girl's dumb. I watch him shakily, my tongue sitting uselessly, and my mouth has a full range of emotions washes over him. He runs a hand over his face and sighs, and now I see I see just how exhausted he looks by all of this. I've known for a while now, Michiko, he says softly, and I falter, my eyes going wide. You knew. Probably by the time at the fair is when he was like, you know what, I gotta just drop hints. I managed to gasp, my chest seizing uncomfortably. He nods, circling the sofa, taking his seat, leaning his arms on legs, he sits forward, his gaze piercing. How long? I demand in a whisper. He hesitates, and a feeling of dread comes over me. Since the day that— oh my god, that long? Since the day the box arrived from your parents, he confesses. I saw the old photos of you and Sarah. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was waiting until you trusted me enough to confide in me. I throw my hands in the air. You knew I wanted to. I didn't tell you I was keeping secrets because I was proud of it, Gray. I was really struggling, and to think you knew all this time. I wanted it to come from you. I was hoping you'd have enough faith in us, and me. I don't know what to say. I know I screwed up, unable to be upfront this entire time. I kept avoiding it for so long, way longer than I should have. I let fear get the best of me. Is that why you kept asking me if I trusted you? He nods, short and sharp. I admit I didn't trust you at first, I confess. My former rival, the Phantom, I remember your reputation. I was trying to get away from all that. We're adults now, Michiko. Well, what did you think was going to happen? I don't know. I've had no idea what kind of person you grew up to be, not at first. I didn't want to tell you I was the reason you got kicked out of school. And then eventually my reasons for being reluctant to tell you morphed. I became terrified of losing you, I sigh. It didn't help that some things about you concern me, like how you and Ivan are friends. We're not friends, he cuts me off. Ivan is good for business, Gray says slowly and carefully. Business? I draw the word out. At the look of guilt on Gray's face, something clicks. What is it you really do in the basement? I ask him. He takes a couple of steps towards me with his hands out in front of him, looking torn. Is that really important at the moment? He says flatly. If we are to confess everything, we're confessing everything tonight, sir. I'll tell you my past, my mistakes, and you'll tell me what's going in that basement, because this is my house. It's all connected, I say. I let you use that basement because I felt guilty for what I did, I admit. Huh? Guilty? But not enough to tell the truth, right? He rounds on me, his tone sharp. If I hadn't found out that day, I don't believe you would have ever told me that you were secretly my biggest rival in high school, he growls. That's not true, I protest. He stops and fixes me with a hard stare, his jaw clenching tight. I trusted you, despite knowing who you were. All I wanted was for you to be honest with me. He's right. Gray's right. I can't defend our girl here. Gray's been right. He dropped several hints, and she didn't get it. Or she did get it, but she didn't want to get it. Something about those words shattered me. Inside, he's right, completely right. Shame and anger wash over me, making my eyes well up, but this is no time to feel sorry for myself. I was wrong to not tell you. I'm ashamed of what I did, who I was, and I didn't mean for things to get this far. What a mess. I let out a heavy breath and leaned against the wall, unsure of how to feel. That is it. I agree. How to get out of this mess? How to even begin to mend this relationship? Let's start being honest, Gray, I say. When he looks up, I fix him with a firm stare. He knows the truth about me, and now it's time I learn the truth about him. The whole truth. I need to know what you're doing in my basement, I state. His jaw clenches tight, but after a few moments, he relents with a nod of his head. Fine, let me show you. Maybe I don't want to know now. Maybe I kind of don't want to know now. I'm kind of scared. Are you selling drugs or something? As long as it's not like you're hiding bodies or something, I'm not. I was gonna say I'm okay, but no, I'm not okay with you selling drugs in my house either. I was hoping it was just a simple board game night. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.